Hey everybody, welcome back to the show. This week I'll show you how I made the black and white checkered bases that I'm going to use to stand the Marx Brothers on top of. So I started by basing the piece completely white. If you're going to do this or try something like it, I'd recommend first of all using a spray can to do it, and second, spray gray rather than white. It's easier to correct black and white colors over a gray background than it is to correct black on a white background. Next, I'm marking out the distinct checker pattern by drawing it in with a pencil first, and then I'm going to go over it again with a pen to get those lines nice and sharp. If I were to do this again, I would make a distinct point of having very broad, large, square tiles. That's because while I was painting this, it was frustrating at times to end up with small square tiles, even though I knew they would be square and they might look right at the end. I still had to paint a lot of smaller squares. Although I didn't do this, I'd recommend this for anyone else who wants to do a black and white checkered floor. After you've drawn in all your lines with your pencil or pen, go over it with your knife to put in a little ridge, a gouge there between each tile. This will help with painting because it'll help prevent spillover, and it'll help you find the lines. It also helps with the design a little bit by further marking out each of those squares. Next, I'm going over it with a fine tipped pen and just giving a rough color in of all the squares that I want to be black, as well as defining out those lines far sharper. If I had used my knife here, I would skip this step or I would skip the lining step because all of those lines would be far better defined. If you can see that filled out circle on the left there, see how those squares are a little bit broader and bigger than the unfilled out one beside it? See, that one on the right there was far easier to color in than the smaller squares on the left. The next step was to go in over those black squares with black paint, really fill in the color. I could have used a little bit of a different strategy here. A lot of miniature painters I see on YouTube use a mixture of black paint with a little bit of black ink in there just to really help the color pop. I don't have any black ink, but I want to try it because this was tough. Black and white both have really bad coverage on a white background. They both take a lot of time building up. So that left me doing a lot of little layers, and if I ever made mistakes, I had to go back in with white and do a touch-up. If I had used bigger squares and that gouging technique, I think this would have been a lot easier. So if anyone out there wants to try something like this, I'd recommend you give that a go. Anyway, guys, thank you so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed and learned something. Come back next week for the full paint job of the boys. I didn't do it this week because I had a pretty major workshop update this week, which was nice. But yeah, have a good one, everybody, and sleep well.